Well, good morning and welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee with Dr. Childress here. So, today I'm going to be discussing step one for parents who are dealing with this pathology. So, if you're just entering the pathology, you're an early stage parent, you've just started a divorce process and things have spun out of control, and you're beginning to understand that this is not going to be a normal divorce and it's going to be more conflicted than you had anticipated surrounding the child. And so you're very disoriented at this point. And what do you do? What's the first thing you do as you enter into this pathology and its solution? The other is for parents, or the other audience is for parents who are more deeply involved in the problems and the with the court system and the mental health people and things, and you want to get over to a proper track to solve the problem because everything's a mess. So, what do you do to get over to the proper? Well, this is step one. So this is step one for everybody who's entering the pathology or trying to get over to a more successful approach. And step one is don't trigger. And there's reasons for that. So let's talk about that for a second. So the first thing to understand with this pathology, as you're the parent, is that this is a spousal abuse pathology using the child as a weapon. So everybody else is going to be focused on the child and the focused on you and everything. As you're leading the family, as you're solving the problem in the family, it's important that you recognize that this is a spousal abuse pathology. You are a spousal abuse victim at this point, and you're in a traumatized brain. So, from me to you, Dr. Childress to you, parents out there, I want to reassure you that you did nothing wrong in this situation and that nothing that's going on is your fault. Bad people are doing bad things and we're going to make them stop. Now, that's the statement we make to child abuse victims or spousal abuse victims on the rescue. That the child's going to think, "Oh, it's my fault," and no. You did nothing wrong. It's not your fault. Bad people are doing bad things, and we're going to make them stop. And that's what I'm saying to you, parents out there, that you can kind of deactivate out of your anxiety and out of the traumatized brain. We need you to be stable. We need you to be a healthy parent because we need leadership on this family. And the leadership is not coming from the pathological parent. So we need you to provide the leadership for this family into normal range and healthy. Then we need to get you the support you need to be able to do that. That's step two and on. Okay. For the step one, though, is for you to find a proper internal place for you. And the spousal abuse is going to try to get you into a problematic place. So let's talk about that for a second. But first, before we even get to the problematic situations, you're surrounded by highly problematic mental health people. And at this point in time, we don't have competence in the family courts. There's a lot of incompetent mental health people who are just messing things up and participating in the child abuse or being seduced and co opted into participating and believing the shared delusion from their own stuff. And so, as you enter this pathology and its solution, don't trust the surrounding mental health professionals until they prove they are competent. So if you just go in and say, "Oh, they're going to take care of me," no, you need to be an informed consumer of mental health services because this is too important. So one of the things to understand about competence, a real easy way to assess for competence, is the patient should never have to explain the pathology to the doctor. The doctor should be explaining it to the patient. So just like Dr. Childress can come on every Sunday, and I'm not sitting with notes or anything. I'm just explaining the pathology to you because I know what the pathology is. That should be true of all the doctors. I'm applying established knowledge, Bowlby, attachment, Mnuchin family systems. I'm telling you established knowledge. All the mental health people should be doing that. I'm not special. I'm not the ceiling. I'm the floor. Okay, people should be at least practicing to the level of Dr. Childress, and then we can go higher. But if you're having to explain the pathology to the doctor, they're not competent by simple demonstration that somebody's having to explain the pathology to them. So now you are in a position where that's true, though, unfortunately. So that's where I have a website. You can direct them over to that, the mental health consultation page. I'm more than happy to talk with them, consult with them, so you can put them and me in touch with each other. I have books, I have booklets, there's lots of ways they can educate themselves if they're motivated. If the doctors are motivated to become educated about the pathology they're working with, but that indicates to a large degree, the dysfunction within the mental health system and the family courts. The forensic psychologists, that's what they call themselves, all of them. So we need to reorient the field here. So don't trust the mental health people until they show they're competent, and you'll get a sense of that as you're talking. Do they get it? Do they understand what's going on? And or are they arrogant and don't tell me what's going on, I'll tell you, and then they start using euphemisms like resist, refuse dynamic or parental alienation stuff. Do not use the word parental alienation. Stay in established knowledge. Don't use euphemisms to cover up the child abuse. Let me pull that for a second. This is important. Do not use euphemisms to cover up child abuse. The euphemisms currently being used in the family courts to cover up the psychological abuse by the allied parent, by the pathological parent, are resist, refuse dynamic and parent-child contact problems. Those are out of the forensic psychology people. They are used to cover up their ignorance. They don't know the established knowledge, so they have to make things up because that's how stupid they are. They're so ignorant, they have to make up new pathologies. Resist, refuse dynamic, parent-child contact problems are the euphemisms. It's child abuse. Then parental alienation is the common euphemism that everybody uses to hide the child abuse from view, from the court's understanding, and from effective intervention. When there's child abuse, say child abuse. It's not inappropriate affection, it's child sexual abuse. It's not overly harsh discipline, it's child physical abuse. It's not lax supervision, it's child neglect. It's not resist, refuse dynamic. It's not parent-child contact problems. It's not parental alienation. It's child psychological abuse. DSM-5 V995.51. So when it's child abuse we're worried about, use the word child abuse. And then we do a differential diagnosis. We diagnose which parent's abusing the child, and we protect the child. Otherwise, we're dealing with euphemisms and we're not protecting the child. So the pathology of clinical concern is a shared induced persecutory delusion and false factitious attachment pathology imposed on the child for secondary gain to the allied parent. The pathology of diagnostic concern is going to be the child psychological abuse. DSM-5 V995.51. So this is a picture of kind of my mental representation of what the pathogen looks like. Kind of simplistic, but I see it sort of similar to those little models that we used to put together in chemistry class, where there's various domains of meaning or information structures that are functional or dysfunctional with the pathology. So, one of those bubbles would be shame, and another bubble would be, you know, rejecting a parent or something. And so we'd have various aspects of the pathology there. And when I look at different features of the pathology, that I call it source code. I've read the source code of the pathology that's producing its patterns. And there's two particular patterns or two particular source code bits in the overall pathology that do specific things. And so that's why I kind of wanted to present that imagery for you, is because it does feel like I'm reading the source code and it's going to do something over and over and over again. It's a pattern. This pathology is pattern. And so the pathogen is the pattern producing thing. It's the damaged information structures in the attachment networks that are going to do certain things. And it's going to do something to you, and you need to kind of stop it from doing that. So what it's going to do is it's going to destabilize you. Okay, that's the first thing. It's going to try to destabilize you, and it's going to move the pathology into the wrong system as part of that destabilization. So to understand the patterns of the pathology here and how it's going to try to destabilize you, the targeted parent, in every way possible. So that's the goal, and then it's going to use a bunch of approaches to accomplish that goal. First, and most importantly, it's going to trigger you into your fears and anxieties. And that has two purposes. First, it stops logical reasoning and triggers you into emotional responding. Second, it stops you from planning ahead and makes you very now reactive. Okay, so it's going to try to trigger you into your anxieties and fears. And it does that naturally because this is a very disorienting situation. Your child's changing. You didn't expect this. This is important. And so your anxiety is going to activate and you're going to be like, wait a minute, I have to take care of this. This is really important. And that's exactly what it wants. Okay, it wants to make you anxious. We need to keep you calm so that you can use your logical reasoning rather than your emotional thinking, and that you can plan ahead rather than becoming now reactive. So that's the first thing it's going to try to do is activate you into your anxieties in a variety of ways. The second thing it does to destabilize you, powerful thing it does, is it attacks fundamental reality with false allegations. These false, that didn't happen. That's not true. And so even your reality is disoriented. Then it also attacks your identity. Holy cow, people's identity as mom or dad, that's who they are. You lose your name when the child's born. You're not Bob or Mary, you're mom and your dad. And now that's being attacked. You're no longer mom or dad to your child. Wait a minute, your whole identity is being destabilized, along with reality being destabilized, which creates all the anxiety and what's going on in the situation. You didn't anticipate this. You just wanted a divorce from your ex. Then it disorients you by moving it into the legal system. And that's a whole different system where you got to get attorneys and they talk different, they do different, and there's long delays. And it's, oh my goodness, the legal system is so disorienting. And the legal system also imposes huge financial burdens that stress you out financially as you're having to pay for attorneys. And it takes so long to get anything through the legal system. And then it uses allies. It gets the GALs and the parenting coordinators or the therapists, individual therapists and people, reunification therapists, any of the professionals who start to get involved, it gets them, it seduces them into either being allies of the pathology or it gets rid of them somehow. It gets, no, we court orders, a child doesn't like that therapist and the child likes this therapist. So we want, and so it navigates through the professionals to get professionals it wants. And then it puts the child out in front. It's got the child's manipulated voice, and then it presents the child's voice to these incompetent people, and they believe the shared delusion. They believe the factitious disorder that's being presented because they're not competent. And so we need to get competent mental health people who recognize the pathology, recognize the child abuse. That's an us problem, a doctor problem. That's not a you problem. And that's the current situation, is the doctors aren't doing their job. So the pathology will seek to destabilize you in every way possible. So knowing that, step one is don't trigger into your fears and anxieties. That's the most important thing about your first encounter, is stay grounded. We need leadership in this family. You know what reality is. I know what reality is. The other side is a delusional disorder. We will resolve that. Stay grounded. Don't trigger into your fears. You want to keep your logical reasoning and planning ahead systems open. You want logical reasoning, and you want to develop a plan and then execute the plan. And what you need is a treatment plan to fix the problem. Okay? You need a treatment plan. Now, this is kind of important. What you need right now, step one, is not the treatment plan, because that's all the step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is how we're going to get there. Step one is to obtain a treatment plan to fix the problem. Okay, that's all you have to do right now. You have to just obtain a treatment plan. The plan is to obtain a plan. Okay, that's easy. So who develops treatment plans? Is that a judge? No, judges don't do treatment. So who develops a treatment plan? Doctors do. Okay, so you need to get this over to a doctor to get a treatment plan. And that's your plan, to get this over to a doctor to get a treatment plan to fix the problem. Okay, you got a problem, you need it fixed. We need a treatment plan to fix the problem. So what the pathology tries to do, and this is a source code again, it does it in all cases, it will try to drive this into the wrong system for a solution. The family court is the wrong system for solving pathology. And family conflict is a pathology. It's not a crime. The healthcare system deals with pathology. Legal system deals with crime. So why are you trying to solve a pathology in the legal system? That's insane. That's totally the wrong system to solve the pathology. And the legal system becomes a barrier to treatment because of the extensive delays right off the top. This is child abuse. Okay, this is what we're worried about, one way or the other. And we got months of delays from courts, and then it gets months and years. We need an accurate diagnosis on child abuse relatively quickly. We need a clinical diagnostic assessment within 4 to 6 weeks when we're concerned about child abuse, which we are. And so the legal system is way too slow for that. We need to pop it out of the legal system, get court orders, because they're going to drive it into the legal system. So we're going to have to, though, take it out of the legal system, get it over to the healthcare system, and get an accurate diagnosis relatively quickly so we can get on this and fix it. So, then there's a manipulation. When they drive it into the legal system, they're able to manipulate the court so easily because the court is not a mental health professional. The court doesn't diagnose pathology, and they got the child saying stuff, and the court doesn't know what's happening, and they're running through case by case out through the day. And so they can manipulate the court more easily. They get a restraining order or something, and then the court into 3, 4, 5 months of delay. Plus, it's financial abuse of the spousal parent to drive this into the wrong system, the legal system. It's much more expensive, the legal system, than getting treatment. And then they get all the professionals around, that cost more money. parent-child coordinators, the GALs, the individual therapists, the reunification, all these people that all are sapping money. The attorneys are sapping money from the parents. So it's financial abuse of and then there's a public shaming aspect of bringing it into court and declarations where they say what your bad parent you were and bad spouse during the marriage and putting you on trial for being a bad parent. So there's all sorts of manipulative stuff about driving it into the wrong system. So what your first step, your plan, is get it out of the legal system. Move the solution over to the healthcare system, out of the legal system. You will have to get court orders to do that, but let's do that. And then what do you do in the mental health system? That's steps 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're talking about step 1. Okay, step 1, don't destabilize, stay calm. You know what the situation is. Develop a plan. What's the plan? Let's get you a plan. And so you need a treatment plan. So let's get this over to the healthcare system and get this over to the doctors. So you want a treatment plan to fix the problem. Now, for a treatment, you're going to need to know the diagnosis because diagnosis guides treatment. And this is really simple. And so you can just go back, you're moving it into the healthcare system. You don't have to prove a pathology to the judge. How do I tell the judge? Stop it. You're in the wrong system. Get it over to the doctors. You shouldn't have to explain the pathology to the doctors. You might, so we'll talk about that. But you want to get it. Now, once you get it to the doctors, what you want is what you want from any doctor related to your child for any physical problem or emotional problem. You want them to an accurate diagnosis of what's going on and an effective treatment plan to fix it. Now, is that up to you to come up with the diagnosis? No, you're not a doctor. They are. That's their job. And it's your job to be competent. And it's your job to know. And it's their job to explain the pathology to you, not you explain it to them. But the forensic psychologists, people with names, are just lazy, ignorant, incompetent, unethical, and just the worst imaginable. And the clinical psychologists with knowledge don't work in the family court, so you're kind of stuck. So there's other videos around that I've talked about. How do we recruit that? How do we get you competent mental health services until the mental health system fixes and addresses its extraordinarily problematic professional activity in the family courts. So, but diagnosis guides treatment. Okay, you just know that from healthcare. Okay, the treatment for cancer is different than the treatment for diabetes. So you're a parent. The other parent's saying, you're abusive of the child doesn't want to be with you. And you're saying, that's delusional. You're creating a persecutory delusion in the child and a false attachment pathology. You're each claiming the other's abusive, so let's get it out to get a proper risk assessment for possible child abuse to the appropriate differential diagnosis. Are you abusing the child, or are they psychologically abusing the child, and is this a persecutory delusion and factitious attachment pathology? And there's ways to diagnose that and do that. So that's step 1 on the situation, is just stay grounded in reality. Don't trigger into your fears. I know you're going into this new situation. It's complicated. No, actually it's not. It's very simple. You got a problem. You need to fix your problem. For that, you're going to need a treatment plan to fix your problem. The treatment plan is going to depend on the diagnosis, because are we treating child abuse by the allied parent or child abuse by you? So that's going to be totally different treatment plans. So let's figure out which parent's abusing the child. And if a child's rejecting a parent, there's child abuse somewhere by one parent or the other. So if a child's rejecting a parent, let's do a proper risk assessment. Or is the targeted rejected parent abusing the child, creating the attachment pathology, a 2-person attribution of causality? Or do we have the allied parent creating a false attachment pathology, a shared persecutory delusion, and psychologically abusing the child, a 3-person triangle attribution of causality? So is it 2-person or 3-person? That's what we need to diagnose. So we need leadership in this family. That leadership is going to be you, because it's not coming from the pathological parent. We need to get you support to be able to protect your child. All mental health professionals have duty to protect obligations. All mental health professionals have ethical obligations to be competent. So let's see what we can do about getting you some competent mental health services out there. So with that, I'm going to head off to my Sunday, and good luck to everybody out there. And we'll just see what we can do about just moving forward. Develop a plan, execute the plan, and let's protect the child and protect you from spousal abuse. So with that, there we go. So let me sign off here, and we'll